Have you ever seen someone underestimate another person so badly they set themselves up for the shock of their life? Well, that's exactly what happened one evening in the glittering study of Victor Langford, a self-made tech mogul who thought he knew exactly who the people around him were. Turns out he didn't have a clue. Victor's study was the kind of room that made you feel small the moment you stepped inside. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined with leather-bound volumes, a massive mahogany desk imported from Italy, and the faint scent of cigars and expensive whiskey lingering in the air. That night the mood was lively. Victor was entertaining three of his closest executives after finalizing a $3 billion acquisition. The room was buzzing with laughter, crystal glasses clinking, and the kind of arrogant confidence that only comes from people who think they've won at life. And then there was her, standing just inside the doorway, wearing her neatly pressed navy uniform and holding a tray of fresh drinks, was Camila Torres, the Langford family's live-in maid. She was quiet, composed, and had mastered the art of blending into the background after nearly 2 decades in the household. To them, she was part of the furniture. To Victor, she was the help. And maybe that's why he thought this next move would be funny. Victor slapped a thick document onto the polished coffee table, smirking as he looked at Camila. "Camila," he said, his voice dripping with faux charm, "translate this for me by tomorrow morning, and my monthly salary is yours." The executives erupted into laughter. Victor wasn't bluffing. His monthly salary was close to $500,000. But this wasn't a genuine offer. It was a performance, a joke at her expense. Camila stepped forward, keeping her expression perfectly neutral, and picked up the document. Her eyes scanned the front page. Dense Mandarin text, technical diagrams, and complicated annotations. Victor leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying himself. "Even our professional translators are having a hard time with this one," he added, swirling his whiskey. "It's from our new partners in Shanghai. A nightmare of technical jargon. If you can translate this accurately, you win. But I think we both know how this ends. More laughter. More condescension. I can't lie. If I had been in Camilla's shoes, I probably would have dropped the paper back on the table and walked out. But Camila, she just nodded politely. "Will there be anything else you need this evening, Mr. Langford?" Victor waved his hand dismissively. "That's all. Oh, and make sure the bar's stocked. We'll be celebrating late into the night." Camila turned and left the room without another word. And here's the thing. The executives thought the game was over right there. But what they didn't know, the real game had just begun. Down in the quiet sanctuary of the kitchen, Camila placed the document on the marble counter and stared at it for a long moment. She wasn't intimidated. She was angry. 20 years of service, cleaning up after these people, cooking their meals, raising their children, nursing Victor's late wife through her final days. And still, she was nothing more than a convenient target for a cruel joke. And here's where I think a lot of people underestimate someone like Camila. Because what Victor didn't know, what he never bothered to ask, was that before she came to America, Camila Torres was Dr. Camila Torres, a distinguished professor of linguistics specializing in East Asian languages. She'd taught at a top university back in Venezuela, conducted research in Beijing, and could navigate the kind of technical Mandarin that would make most translators sweat. But after political unrest turned dangerous, after her colleagues started disappearing, she fled, leaving her career and academic credentials behind. In the US, her degrees didn't transfer easily, and starting over meant years of recertification she couldn't afford. She needed work immediately. So when Victor's first wife offered her a job as a live-in maid, she accepted. It was safe, it was stable, and most importantly, it made her invisible. Until tonight. Camila took out her phone and snapped a photo of the document, then sent it to an old contact, Professor Samuel Lee. He was one of the few people who still knew her real identity, and who could provide quick insight if she needed a second pair of eyes. Her message was short. "It's me. I need your help. Urgent." After making sure the kitchen was spotless and the bar upstairs was stocked, she drove her 12-year-old Corolla back to her small apartment. Her neighborhood was noisy, the kind of place where the lights stayed on late because people worked double shifts. But inside her home, the space was calm, organized and filled with books in half a dozen languages. She changed out of her uniform, sat down at her old but reliable laptop, and started working. At 2:17 a.m., her phone chimed. Professor Lee's reply lit up the screen. Interesting. This is a technical partnership agreement for quantum computing hardware. Highly specialized language. What exactly do you need? Camilla smiled faintly. Just a nudge with any tricky terms. I'll handle the rest. And she did. For hours, her pen moved across paper with the kind of precision you only get after years of academic training. She didn't just translate the document, she dissected it. And what she found buried deep in the legal jargon was alarming. Clauses that would give the Chinese partners unrestricted access to Langford Tech's entire security infrastructure, plus ownership rights to any new technology developed through the partnership. In other words, Victor was about to hand over the keys to his kingdom without even realizing it. By dawn, Camilla had two documents ready. One, a flawless translation. Two, a detailed breakdown of the dangerous clauses. She slept for just 2 hours before heading back to the Langford estate, where she resumed her usual duties like nothing had happened. It was late morning when Victor finally emerged from his suite, looking a little worse for wear after the night's celebrations. Camilla, he called lazily, you can give me those papers back. I hope you got a laugh out of my little joke. Camilla walked over and placed a neatly organized folder on the table in front of him. I've completed the translation, Mr. Langford, she said evenly. The room went quiet. Victor blinked. I'm sorry. What? I've also annotated sections that might be of concern to you, she continued, flipping to a page halfway through. For example, here, this clause would grant them full backdoor access to your security systems. And this one? Victor leaned forward, his smirk fading fast. Diane Brooks, his CFO, snatched the document and scanned it. Her eyes widened. She's right, Victor. If we'd signed this, we'd have been ruined. And just like that, the help wasn't invisible anymore. Victor Langford sat frozen, his fingers gripping the edges of the translation as if afraid the truth might slip away. For the first time in 2 decades, he looked at Camila Torres as if seeing her clearly. The smug amusement from last night had drained from his face, replaced by a dawning awareness that bordered on fear. Around the table, his executives exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of what Camilla had uncovered sinking in. Diane Brooks, still holding the annotated pages, shook her head slowly. Victor, these clauses would have gutted us. How did our legal team miss this? Camilla's tone was calm, almost clinical. The language is deliberately misleading. Unless someone understands both the technical terminology and the cultural nuance, the danger is hidden in plain sight. Victor leaned back, silent for a long moment. His eyes didn't leave her face. Where did you learn to read like this? She met his gaze without flinching. Before I came here, I was a professor of linguistics. My specialty was technical translations between Mandarin and Spanish. I studied at Beijing University. He blinked, clearly stunned. And in all these years, you never said a word? You never asked, she replied simply. It wasn't bitter or sarcastic. It was just the truth. He swallowed hard, running a hand through his graying hair. How much do I pay you? $52,000 a year, she answered evenly, plus health insurance. There was a sharp intake of breath from one of the executives, as if the figure itself were an insult. Victor shook his head. And you've been handling my household, raising my kids, helping with their schoolwork, all while I treated you like background noise. His voice faltered. Why help me at all? Camilla didn't look away. Because I work here. What happens to this company affects everyone who depends on it, including me. I don't let my personal feelings compromise my work. He was quiet for so long that the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner seemed deafening. Then with a sudden motion, Victor told everyone to leave except Camilla. Diane clutched the translation protectively as she exited, as if holding a lifeline. When the room was empty, Victor paced once, twice, then stopped in front of her. The deal's a deal. You'll get my monthly salary. All of it. Mr. Langford, that's not necessary. It's Victor, he said firmly, and it is necessary. You saved my company from a catastrophic breach that could have cost billions. That's worth far more than my pride." He opened his desk, pulled out his checkbook, and began to write. Camilla stood still, watching the pen move. She thought about her nephew back home in Venezuela, the one dreaming of becoming a doctor but unable to afford medical school. She thought about her sister, still working 2 jobs to feed her children. She thought about how many years she'd been quietly invisible in this very house, and how this one night had changed everything. When Victor handed her the check, it was real, not symbolic. $400,000, enough to change the trajectory of her family's lives. But Victor wasn't done. "I want to offer you something else," he said. "We need someone in our international division with your expertise, a position with a salary that matches your qualifications, full benefits, your own team, total respect." She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the check. "I've stayed invisible for a reason. My family is still at risk if my name is public." He nodded slowly. "Then we'll do it quietly. A private contractor position. No public profile. You'll work directly with our legal team on all international agreements. You set the terms." She named them. Anonymity, flexible hours, and equal treatment for all staff, with no more cruel jokes at anyone's expense. He agreed without hesitation. And then, for the first time in 20 years, Victor Langford apologized to her face. It wasn't polished or rehearsed. It was raw. "I was blind, Camilla. I'm sorry." She gave him a small nod. "I'll hold you to your word." 3 months later, Camilla's life looked very different. She still kept her modest apartment, still shopped at the same corner market, still took evening walks through the same neighborhood. But every morning she drove to the top floor of Langford Tower, where a private office with a view of the city skyline waited for her. Her desk held documents in multiple languages, a high-end computer system, and a locked drawer containing sensitive agreements she alone was trusted to review. On her first week, she caught flaws in a Singapore contract that could have caused millions in losses. On her second, she revised a Brazilian partnership deal, tightening clauses the legal team had overlooked. One afternoon, Victor stopped by her office with 2 coffees. One prepared exactly how she liked it. He set them down, smiling faintly. "The Singapore board is still talking about you, and this," he said, placing a small box on her desk, "is for you." When he left, she opened it to find a nameplate. Dr. Camila Torres, Director of International Linguistics and Cultural Affairs. Beneath it was a handwritten note. "Your choice whether to use this. Either way, you are seen now." Camilla held the nameplate for a long moment, running her fingers over the engraved letters. She wasn't ready to put it on her door just yet, but for the first time in 20 years, she knew she could, and that choice belonged entirely to her. And maybe that's the part that hits the hardest. Not the money, not the promotion, not even the recognition, but the moment someone who was invisible for decades is finally acknowledged for who they truly are. It's the reminder that brilliance can hide in plain sight, that the person you dismiss as the help could be the one who saves everything you've built. And if that doesn't make you rethink how you treat the people around you, then maybe you're the one who needs translating.